Good morning. This is the OHSU Effect Inside Health and Science. I'm Lacey Evans. When people die, many of us have the wish of donating our bodies to science, and that is possible under the Body Donation Program at OHSU. It was started in 1976 and is one of several programs under Donate Life Northwest, a service organization that assists in tissue, organ, and whole body donations. And with me now on the OHSU Effect is Bill Cameron, director of the Body Donation Program, and Lacey Castellano, a first-year medical student. Good morning to you both.
Morning. Good morning.
Well, first, Bill, why don't we start with you? Tell us about the Body Donation Program. It's a topic that a lot of people probably don't like to discuss.
And it's one of those parts of discussions of end-of-life decisions. And the Body Donation Program came out of the need for training healthcare providers of the future, that there is need for the students to have a greater understanding of human anatomy. And approximately 200 to 250 donors from Oregon and Southwest Washington enter our program per year, and the goal is for us to be able to enhance the educational needs of higher education across the state.
Who donates their bodies?
They're usually donated by an individual who would consent to enter the program. It's somebody who has an altruistic desire to continue to give after death, and it becomes an educational resource that is just a remarkable opportunity for the students.
So it can be any gender, any age, anything like that?
Any age, and it needs to be of a consenting age, so 18 or older. The average age of our donors are somewhere in late 60s, early 70s, so it's usually dominated by an older age group.
Well, let's talk more about the various ways in which donations benefit the health of us, of all Oregonians.
I think that probably the most important part is that each individual, just as much as the surface of the skin, they look different. They are different below the surface of the skin. And so for the abilities for our healthcare providers to understand all the intricacies of the bodies and things that lie below the surface, the more opportunities that they have to be able to experience the donors and the abilities to understand the variations in anatomy all make them better clinicians. So everything from where they're going to give you an injection to complicated surgical procedures are all enhanced by having a greater knowledge.
And Lacey, has that been your experience? Has this really benefited your education?
I think we use simulation for other things, but I can't imagine having done this any other way. You learn so much from looking at each of the bodies and how different they are. And also, the pictures don't do justice to what's really under there. And it's quite amazing what you see and what you get to learn just from being in and being involved with that process.
Bill, let's talk a little bit more about the research arm of this.
So there is a constant need to be able to determine how better to be able to provide prosthetic devices, to understand more about what makes for a good repair of a broken bone. One example would be is the orthopods, as they mend your bones, how they would just immobilize. Where those pins go could mean the health or the non-health of the bone, depending upon where the blood supply enters and other things. So there's a whole variety of means of taking and improving the technology and the procedures of today from doing very careful study of the anatomy now.
And Lacey, you mentioned simulation, and we've actually had representatives from the simulation program on this show before. So how do these two approaches work together?
I think they need to happen concurrently. There's certainly a lot of benefit. The simulation is neat because it's as if you were using a live person, but without the danger of actually working on a live person. But I think you need both. They are meant to respond. The simulation is meant to respond a certain way. And I think the reality is that humans are very, very, very variable. And you have to come to terms with the idea that not everything happens the way you think it should. Not everything is where you think it should be. And part of the deal is just getting in there and finding that out for yourself and knowing what things really look like instead of what a textbook or a computer simulation would think they look like. because I think you could make a lot of mistakes if you hadn't actually seen a variety of things before.
Sure. How did it feel going into your very first anatomy lab?
I was pretty nervous. I was not excited about it. I thought it was going to be really, really difficult. And it was. The first day for a lot of people was really difficult. There were a lot of mixed emotions. A lot of people were really excited about this first opportunity. Some people had done it before, so they were totally ready. I was a mess, honestly, and didn't quite know how I was going to get through it. And by the end, I can say that it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. After a while, it does normalize. You get a little bit more used to what you're being asked to do and what you're doing, and you learn so much from it. It's overwhelming just how much you learn from this one single person.
And I understand that the school has a memorial service for the donors and families are invited. Is that helpful for students?
I think it is. I think it's, we know at the ahead of time that we will be seeing the families at the end of this. And so while it's compelling anyway to treat your body well, it's especially compelling when you know you're going to meet the family of your donor. And I have to say, I'd heard all sorts of horror stories, perhaps about what people do in anatomy lab, and none of that happened. I was really, really proud of the people that I'm in class with because the amount of respect shown was wonderful.
And body donation really is a gift. So what do you tell these families when they come to the memorial service?
I think a lot of times we are the first. A lot of them did donate to hospice. They had talked to the hospice, and so this is the first time they've actually encountered someone who's come into contact with their family member. So it's very emotional and it's very difficult, but I think the biggest thing we want to convey thank you, and that's a very hard message to convey to the level that we would like to be able to thank them. But it's also just the reminder that whatever they've heard, we knew that they were someone's mother or someone's father, and we treated them as such. And I think that's really important for them to hear.
And Bill, you don't deal directly with the families, as Lacey mentioned, but you're dealing a lot with hospice workers. I mean, what do you tell those people?
Most of the inquiries about the program, they may come directly to our program and be answered by one of my staff members. But in general, this first contact is done by hospices. And right now we're reaching out more to hospices, so we'll have a presence at their association meeting. We'll explain more about who we are and what this choice means to the families, and so that they can better relate to it. So there has been, up to this point, not as much public education about it because, as you said, it's a difficult topic. People don't normally think about having those discussions with their family members in advance. So we are trying to, as best we can, arm the hospice members to understand what this option is.
What are some of the most common questions that you hear from interested families?
Many of them will be what is the duration of the donation. So they would like to know from the time a donation is made to how long before they will have closure. And that period usually ranges somewhere between 2 and 3 years. The other parts is understanding what the role of their loved ones. Many of them would love to know a cause of death. And when it's a donation into our program, we really don't supersede what the physicians who are treating the person had as the diagnosis at that point in time. And it is largely that we are students of the donor and not in a position to be able to enlighten anything about the cause of death. And many of them will say, well, can you cure Alzheimer's from being able to look at my grandmother's brain? And that's another one that is just, the students are very young and early in their careers, and this is more of them in their learning curve versus being able to provide any information whatsoever.
How can someone learn more about donating? What kind of resources are out there?
So we do have our website that's OHSU Donate Life, Body Donation. We are making an attempt. We actually had a presence at Body Worlds, figuring that it was one of those opportunities that the public came in very curious about body donation, and that we also had to make some clarity between people who were actually being asked to donate to Gunther von Hagen's Body Worlds versus OHSU's program. But most of it right now is through your local funeral homes. We've done quite a bit in trying to educate our partners in the funeral industry to the options. But it's really right now mainly web-based and my staff answering phone calls.
And I think it's important to note just that the D on your driver's license doesn't designate you as a body donor. It's a organ donor, and this is a separate decision. So there's a lot of people I know who get those two mixed up, and I think it's important to make that distinction.
Good. Thank you for clarifying that. Bill Cameron and Lacey Castellano here with us from the Body Donation Program at OHSU. Thank you.
Thank you.